Um, Great. Good morning. Thank you, folks. Um, Welcome to the June meeting. I'm Stephanie, the director of the collaborative. I feel like you guys all know me, but if we want to go around and do some quick introductions and mention maybe if you have a goal for this summer, whether it's like a fun thing you want to get done or something professional, we can go around. And I should have thought about this. Um, this sounds like really silly, but I really want to get to the beach because I didn't go to the beach last summer, which is really sad. But I'm hoping to get out there early this year. So that's that's my personal goal. Kaylee, do you want to go next?
Sure. Hi, I'm Kaylee McLaren. I'm the restoration manager at the Blackstone Watershed Collaborative. Um, my personal goal for this summer is to run a half marathon. I run a lot. I have yet to do a half marathon. I'm just not really a race person. But I think it's getting to the point where I really just need to do it. So I'm hoping to uh, do it with my siblings. They both run too, so we're gonna schedule something for probably late summer so we have time to train.
And maybe it's not as hot. Yeah, that's awesome. Kevin, you want to go?
Hi, good morning, everyone. Kevin Rice, Finance and Program Manager for the Blackstone Watershed Collaborative. Um, Goal for this summer. We just scheduled a little vacation. My wife and I are massive roller coaster enthusiasts. So our goal is to get above 150 coasters that we've been on. So we're at 125 right now. So the problem is we have to travel pretty far to get to ones that we haven't been to. So we're going for 150 this summer.
Amazing. Good luck. David, do you want to go next?
David Tapscott, Board of Health at Uxbridge, and core team of two MVP projects. Uh, my goal this summer is to relax.
Love it.
I've got, I want to just go out in the shade of a good tree or several trees and just sit there.
That is a wonderful goal. Very attainable. Alyssa and then Kate.
Hi, everybody. I'm Alyssa, the Community Programs and Partnerships Manager with Blackstone Heritage Corridor. My personal goal for this summer is to go use my new surfboard, hopefully more than a couple times.
That sounds fun. Nice.
Hi, folks. I'm Kate McPherson. I'm Save the Bay's Narragansett Bay Riverkeeper, and I recently was on a new stretch of river for me, and I had such a lovely time. And so my summer goal is to explore river sections that I've never been on before.
Nice. That's a good one. That's true. I want to get out on the Mumford too. Haven't been on the Mumford really. Um, I've got Amanda, then Peter, then Heather.
Hi, I'm Amanda Croftier, Upper Blackstone Clean Water. I hadn't really thought about a summer goal yet, so I guess something that I've been wanting to do more is get out on the bike path and use my bike. I haven't used it in a couple years, so it'd be a good excuse to get out.
Nice. Yeah, that's another good one.
Peter
Peter.
Coffin here, uh, coordinator for the Blackstone River Coalition. Personal goals, keep picking away on painting my church, spend a lot of time with my new grandson, and see if I can keep the blueberries picked. Uh, Professionally, I'm going to try working with the city of Worcester to get a notice of intent so we can do some invasive weed management.
Nice. Good plan.
Hi, I'm Heather Perry from the Blackstone River Coalition. And one of my goals that we brought up at a previous meeting is to go on the bike path. And I haven't ridden any of the bike path yet, so I want to get out and ride my bike on that.
Love it. Well, our next meeting, we're proposing to be in person, and we had an idea of a location that's still pending. So if that doesn't work out, I think maybe we'll just pop over to the bike path.
Oh, nice.
Judy, and then Danica, and then Sarah.
Good morning, everybody. Yeah, I guess, my goal every summer seems to be the same thing, and I just always run out of time. I just want to get out and paddle more. I want to get out and hike more. And it seems like the weekends get really filled up, and I just never have time to do it. So hopefully this year I'll be more successful at freeing up time to do fun things instead of, work around the house things.
Yes, I'm loving the theme here. Get outside and do fun stuff.
Hi, everyone. I'm Danica Belknap. I'm the liaison for the SNP Network, which is the Southeast New England program. And I also will steal other people's ideas and make a goal to get out and do fun stuff, and particularly the beach one, Steph. Every year, my goal is to go to the beach. So I grew up on Long Island, like 20 minutes from the beach. And when I was younger, I went to the beach a lot. And when me and my husband and I relocated, one of my requirements has always been we need to be like close to a beach. So I've like made him stick to that, but we never go to the beach. So I'm like, okay, I need to start justifying my living requirement. So every year I'm like, we got to go to the beach more. We did go once this year, but I'm gonna try to go more. So
That's pretty good. It's only June.
Mhm.
Sarah, do you want to go next?
Sure, thanks. Sorry, I forgot the order.
That's okay.
I'm Sarah, and I am with Broad Meadowbrook Wildlife Sanctuary out of Worcester. And I think I'm along the lines of David's of like relaxing, reading, slowing down a bit. Um, yeah, swimming outside. Yeah, no particular ambitions, just slowing it down.
Perfect. Perfect. I'm loving the theme. I'm hearing don't have a meeting next month, only do fun things. That's what I'm getting from this. Amanda, do you want to go next?
I already went.
Oh, I'm sorry. You're next on my screen and my brain just went right there. Malik, do you want to go?
Yeah, sure thing. I'm Malik with the Nature
Malik,
Conservancy. I
sorry.
am a coastal restoration scientist, and my goal this summer is to get a few scuba dives in.
Nice. That's awesome. I used to dive and then I just stopped doing it and I'm like the worst diver. I get freaked out every time I go under. Then I calm down, but it's always scary that first time.
Well, I'm in search of a dive buddy, so if you're interested.
Ooh, all right. I want to keep that in mind. Last but not least, I think is Mark.
Hey everyone, Mark Mello, Blackstone River Valley National Historical Park. Um, Personally, back in February, my wife and I welcomed our second child, so I want to spend a lot of time with the new addition to our family this summer. Professionally, though, that and parental leave, which is an amazing thing, has set me back a little bit with work. So I'm looking to catch up this summer with a lot of the stuff that's piled up on my desk.
All right, Mark, we'll let you take all the work and the rest of us will just go to the beach. That's what
I
it's
know I broke the theme, but we'll go
That's
to the beach
okay.
with the new addition to the family for sure.
Perfect. Perfect. Well, thank you all. And I'm realizing that this also is a quirky meeting. So you all did a great job remembering that our meeting is not on Juneteenth. We moved it up early a week. So that's probably partly why we're a small group this week, is because that meeting date changed. So thanks for being on top of things. From here, I'm going to stop sharing my screen and hand it to Kate, who's going to talk about the flora and fauna of the Blackstone, which I'm really excited about because she's so amazing at this and I'm not.
Thanks, Steph. Um, yeah, so this is going to be very low key. I just want to verify you guys can see my screen, right? Yes. Um, yeah, so Kaylee asked me to do a presentation on the flora and fauna of the Blackstone River watershed. And immediately I was like, oh my God, that is so many things. That is so many things. How can I make this interesting and applicable? So a little bit about me. I work for Save the Bay. I am the river keeper. My background is in wildlife biology and management. That's my degree. And I'm also a professional wetland scientist. So I spend a lot of time in areas that are not trodden very frequently. So squishy, marshy, rivery, boggy areas. And so, ooh, hold on. Next, next. How do you how do you advance the screen? Oh, here we go. You click. Everybody knows the watershed, but I still wanted to sort of refresh. This is sort of by state, fairly large area. Um, but I also wanted to share. Oh, how do I go back now? Oh no.
I think if you hover over the screen, it'll give you an option, or you can do that. That's great.
Yeah. All right. But I wanted to make sure that folks that don't know about this were kind of aware that globally there are these things called ecoregions. And so there are thousands of ecoregions, and we think of our corn of Rhode Island and Massachusetts as being, big and important, but we're so small in the global scale of things. So here's just a map of the New England ecoregions, and EPA handles ecoregion delineation in the states. And so zooming in, you can see almost the entirety of our giant Blackstone River watershed is in the northeastern coastal zone. And then you can like break it down slightly more into like 59C. So that's the southern New England coastal plains and hills, which is interesting because, we think we have all this different kinds of diversity and habitats like salt marshes and red maple swamps and cranberry bogs and all that stuff. But like if you really take a global view, we're all just kind of a part of the New England coastal plains and hills. So I just wanted to touch on that briefly because I think it's an interesting way to sort of think about our sense of place in a much bigger way. And like I said, I'm a wetland scientist, so I like to be found in slightly sketchy situations where I wish that my legs were a little longer. And then I want to share that all of the following photos are my own. So, our first cool plant is skunk cabbage. So, skunk cabbage is awesome because it's one of the first flowers to flower in the spring. It burns a hole in the snow, as you can see here, and that little weird little like I don't even know how to describe it, but like it's a little pocket. That's the flower in there. Skunk cabbages exude a smell that smells kind of stinky, and so they get flies to pollinate them early in the spring. And it's a wetland indicator species, and I just love it. I think most people think it stinks. I think it smells kind of garlicky and delicious. So, but that's just me. This next plant is a carnivorous plant. Does anybody know what it is? I'd love to make this a little bit interactive. Can somebody shout out if they know what it is? I'm going to give 3 seconds.
It looks orchidy.
It does look orchidy. This is a pitcher
Bamboo?
plant, and this is a plant that again is a wetland obligate species. It grows on high acidic peatlands. You can find high acidic peatlands near like the West Hill Dam has a lot of wetlands that are similar to this. Um, and then out near Pulaski Park, which I think is in the watershed, there's some acidic wetlands out there. So pitcher plants lure in insects and then digest them in their pitchers. And I just think that's pretty awesome. This next plant, anybody know?
Sundew.
Yeah, it's a sundew. So sundews are also native to our region. And instead of trapping in a large pitcher, those all those sticky little beads of sap at the end of all those little stalks. Insects, ants especially, get stuck in them, and then the pad curls around the ant or the gnat or the tiny fly, and the plant gets its fertilizer from that. And I want to emphasize that these last two plants live in really poor soils. So they live almost exclusively in wet sphagnum moss, which has almost no nutrients. And so one of the reasons why they've evolved this uh, this carnivorous behavior is so that they can get some nutrients so that they can continue to grow. This is the weirdest plant ever. Any guesses? I see a couple smirks. So this one's called either a devil's dipstick or well, I know it as a devil's stinkhorn sometimes. And again, this is a really gross smelling one. This one grows in uplands. But when I saw it, I was like, oh my God, I have to take a picture of this. It is a fungus and not a plant, and it attracts flies through a really putrid smelling gelatinous spore-filled area at the tip of this thing, and then eventually it just disintegrates into the ground. But
You're really selling this one.
yeah, like this is the weirdest fungus ever, and it's really vibrantly colored, and they just sprout out of the ground. So
How
weird.
tall is that in the one in your
That's
picture?
like very small, like 4 inches, but I think they get
Okay.
up to 6 inches. And I read a story about like how in the Victorian era, scandalized ladies would go out and like chop them down and be scandalized. Anyway, here's a little monarch caterpillar. I mean, quite a big one. And then the plant here is obviously our native milkweed plant. Um, Milkweed, I recently learned when it's a young shoot, you can eat milkweed if you cook it first. I didn't know that. So, maybe next spring I'll try and find some and let you know how it tastes. But the caterpillars are just so interesting and striking looking, and this is a good one to plant in your garden. I have some milkweed growing in my garden, but I haven't seen any caterpillars yet. This one was out at uh in Easton. Now we're gonna get into the wildlife, which is, wildlife biology. I love the wildlife. This is a wood frog. Wood frogs are vernal pool dependent, so vernal pools are a type of wetlands, and wood frogs live most of their life out in the woods. Sometimes they'll hang out in your long grass, like I I do no mow May, and I regularly will get wood frogs hanging out in the long grass. Um, I just think they're great. They're awesome. We were out doing some dry season vernal pool monitoring and found a lot of wood frogs hanging out in the vernal pools after all the water was gone, which was really interesting. I didn't know that. These guys are great. Somebody here must know what this is.
Spotted salamanders.
Yeah, spotted salamanders. So the one on the right I found on my street. I've been stopping for amphibians before I even really knew what like since I got my driver's license when I was 16, and if I was a passenger, I would yell at whoever was driving to stop so we could help the spring peepers cross the road. But this big lady was in my street, so I had to help her cross. And then the two on the left are larvae that are almost ready to emerge. So if you look carefully, I don't know if you can see my cursor, but I'm going to circle these appendages right here are external gills. That's how they breathe in the vernal pool. And these are spotted salamander larvae. You can see there's still a little bit of a tail fin here, so they still have, maybe a couple more weeks to go before they can emerge. So this photo was taken at the end of June, or maybe the beginning of June. So usually by end of June, early July, they can start crawling out of those vernal pools. Here's another wetland dependent species. This one is called a four-toed salamander, and they don't necessarily live in vernal pools per se, but they really like this moss that it's pictured on. This is sphagnum moss, and uh, instead of laying like a giant jelly bean egg mass that you might see for a wood frog or a spotted salamander, the two species we looked at previously, they only lay like 6 to 10 eggs, and the females actually guard them. So if you want to find a four-toed salamander, I like find a swamp with like some really lush, beautiful looking pillows of this green, lush moss, and you just lift up little pieces. If Almost always, I'll find one of these little salamanders, and sometimes if you're really lucky, you'll see one like curled around her eggs. It's really sweet. This one's super common. Anybody know? Might be in your backyard right now, especially if you leave leaves.
Milkshake?
Say
Is
it
it
again?
Milk
Milk
snake?
snake. No, if you look closer, it's got legs. So there's
It's
a little
a
leg
Oh, I didn't see the
red-backed
here,
legs. Oh,
salamander.
little
okay.
leg here. It's very
Uh,
camouflaged and it's zoomed in. This is my finger for
uh,
this is a red-backed salamander. So red-backed salamanders were the first salamander I ever encountered when I was a little girl because we had a wood pile and leaves would accumulate next to the wood pile. And in the spring, my dad would be like, all right, let's get these leaves out of here. And I'd pull the leaves back and we'd find these salamanders under the leaves next to the wood pile. And I just thought they were delightful. In fact, one of my friends from elementary school claimed, and I don't remember this, but she claimed that I would bring salamanders to school in like my pencil case. So, they were moist spot. You'll find them. They love to hang out in uplands. This is one of the reasons why I'm such a huge fan of leaving leaves in your garden. They don't need a whole lot, and they eat the insects that are kind of under there. So they don't need a lot, and they're awesome. This is something I took a picture of this in my backyard and I was so shocked and stable I was so shocked to see it because normally I see them in like New Hampshire and Vermont. This is the red effed stage of what kind of newt is it? Should have written it down. It's a newt. It's New England's only native newt. Um, but they have three stages, so they use sort of permanent bodies of water, and the adults are fully aquatic. And then they lay their eggs in the water, and then they have sort of an aquatic larval stage. But fairly quickly, they emerge on land. This is called a red eft of the red spotted newt. That's what it came to me now. They're called red spotted newts. And this little critter is not very large. It's maybe an inch and a half long from snout to tip of the tail. And I was really surprised to see one in our watershed. I usually don't. So it's kind of cool. Anybody know what this one is?
Other
Let's
than a
I'm gonna
frog.
start calling people out because waking me up. Nobody?
Is that a green frog?
It is a green frog. So the cool thing about this green frog is that it's not fully juvenile and it's not fully adult yet. So you can see it still has huge webs on its feet, and the dead giveaway is the tail. So in a couple more weeks, this tail will shrink back up into its body and it'll be able to hop around on land. And you can see it's kind of like literally half in and half out of the water in this photograph. So. And basically, like all of these are from my personal camera roll because like I've got that double tap on my cell phone, like double cool animal, double tap, let's take a picture. This is something that my husband Keith says is one of the coolest animals. So doesn't and I'll give you a big hint, it lives in a vernal pool. Anybody? Anybody
Fairy
really?
shrimp?
Yeah, it's a fairy shrimp. So, fairy shrimps are amazing. They're insects, they're invertebrates, and they can survive a completely dry vernal pool for months and months and months and months. And the way they do that is they're surviving in their eggs. So, the eggs are laid um, when there's water in the vernal pool. So, that's typically well, the egg laying period would be like April, May, maybe June, but usually April, May, when these adults that are in my hand right now are flittering around. And then the pool dries up, right? And it dries up and that keeps predators like fish and like bullfrogs and green frogs from living in the pool year round. And that's a survival strategy for this species. And because otherwise they'd just get eaten, like the fish really like to eat uh invertebrates and um so they really need a pool that dries up every year, almost every year. And then when the pool's dry, their eggs are sort of on the bottom in under the leaf litter. It's not even mud, it's bone dry. And then over the winter time, these guys hatch out in like February. Sometimes you can see fairy shrimp under the ice. It's just magical. It's they're so cool. Um, and then like early April, when the wood frogs and the salamanders are traveling to the pools. Sometimes you can see these fairy shrimp in there. So it's just such a nice thing. They're always they feel mythical to me. Um, One of my favorites, American toad. The way you can tell an American toad from a similar toad species called a Fowler's toad is the amount of spots per wart. So this guy is kind of doing some push-ups, standing uh, large and proud. It's kind of hard to tell how many spots per wart are in this one. But I also included this photo just because I think it's so funny. This one was in my lawn, and you can definitely count the spots per wart or warts per spot. So if you have like one, maybe two wart per spot, it's going to be an American toad. If you have like three or four warts per spot, that's going to be the Fowler's toad. And Fowler's toads are a little bit more, a little less common, I'll say. American toads, who had American toads in their lawn growing up? Anybody? Can I get some hands? Heather? Anybody else? Oop, let me go back to the toad. Anyway, I'll talk about toads and we can look at the spring peeper. Um, yeah, American toads used to be everywhere. They love lawns. They love hanging out in sandy soils. They'll live in old chipmunk holes. They'll live like we had a stoop toad that just a toad that lived on our stoop, both in the house I grew up in North Smithfield and the house I live in Gloucester. And toads are having a tough time. I think it's a combination of habitat development because toads don't even need full vernal pools. They just need a puddle. They need like 2 weeks of water. Like if you've been on a dirt road with a puddle and heard like this magical, more cool fun facts about toads, they can harmonize with each other when they're calling for mates. So I I wish I knew how to embed videos because I've got some great audio of toads just like three-part harmony toads. It's absolutely haunting and beautiful, and they're just really wonderful creatures. They eat pests in our lawns, so it's free pest control. And they're just great. Like that flat toad. I want to go back, but I don't know how to go back. Yeah, back button. Look how flat it is. It's amazing. Anyway, I like toads. This is a spring peeper. I think I said that already. And you can kind of tell by the lighting that I'd stopped the car and gotten it out of the road. Spring peeper identification. So obviously they're very small, but sometimes you can get a really small other type of frog, and you're like, oh, is this a little baby gray tree frog or is it an adult spring peeper? And so I use those two frogs as ones to compare because they're both tree frogs. If you look closely at the fingers, they have little suction cups on their fingers. And so both the spring peeper and the gray tree frogs climb really, really well. Um, and so they are also wetland obligate species. They don't necessarily need vernal pools, but they like a lot of like tall grasses and sedges. They will love to hang out in a marsh. They will love to hang out in like a really wet red maple swamp. And again, they need that water to lay their eggs, and then they need some forest for them to hang out in. And in fact, we often hear in the fall calling, and I don't know why they call. I haven't asked them, but they call in the spring and in the fall. Right now, peak gray tree frog season. Who's heard a gray tree frog in their yard? Anybody? I'll give you a hint. They sound like this. Yeah, okay. I'm seeing some hands come up now. These are so fun. Folks are like, what bird is that? I'm like, that is a frog. That is not a bird. They sound very bird-like. This one we found again at my dad's house. He was like, let's do some cleanup. Let's do some raking. So you might be picking up on a theme here that if you do cleanup and raking, you're hurting the amphibians living in your yard. So don't do that. And this is an adult gray tree frog. Did I give you the, I don't think I gave you the ID. Anyway, the ID for spring peeper is there's a little X on their back. And it harkens back to their Latin name, which I don't remember. It's something crucifix or crucifurciae or whatever. But there's a little X on the back of the spring peeper. And there's no X on the back of this guy. If if their legs were extended, you can sometimes see some bright yellow in their leg pits. Uh, and these frogs can come in many colors. So this one's really gray, but I've seen them also be really green. And they blend in so well with the trees. They look just like little lichen patches. In fact, I've heard tree frogs calling, and I'm like, it's right here, it's right in front of my face. And I've never been able to find one that's been tucked into like the bark on on a oak tree or something like that because they're just so camouflaged. And again, they do us an awesome ecosystem service by eating bugs and providing beautiful music this time of year when it's so hot and we're all dying and they're all really happy because it's hot and humid. We're transitioning into tiny turtle territory. Um, this is the smallest turtle I've ever found, probably a new hatchling. This is a painted turtle. And I just really, even though the little painted turtle does not have their head completely extended, I just, they start out so small. They're so small. Does anybody know what kind of turtle this is? Anybody?
Fox?
Yes, it's an eastern box turtle. And here's another really like sad story. You're a wildlife biologist for 20 years, and when you're a brand new field biologist, you're out in the field a lot and you're stepping on box turtles once a week. And I'm lucky if I see a box turtle once a year. So box turtles have really, really been hit hard by habitat destruction because they're a pure upland species. They lay their eggs in the uplands and they eat things like blueberries and low ground cover. And they're slow. People pick them up and take them home as pets. They die a horrible long death. So, yeah, eastern box turtles are really, really in rough shape. And I think we don't have good laws to protect them because we don't have good laws that protect uplands. Some of those other amphibian species are doing okay, especially the ones that really depend on a wetland for part of their life cycle because at least they got the wetland and we've got some decent wetland laws in Rhode Island and Massachusetts. But species like this just are really having a rough time. The story behind this box turtle, this is a female, and I found her right next to my street trying to dig a nest, and she seemed really agitated and exposed. Um, and I think it's because my neighbor had cut down all of the trees on his lot, and I think she had been laying eggs on that lot and was looking for a new spot. And she hung around for like 3 days, and she dug like 10 holes, and I didn't see babies, but I hope she, laid a nest and, you know, maybe they were successful, probably not. And I hope she at least got out safe because it's one thing if like nests fail, and it's a totally different thing if adults are killed. And they're most commonly killed by road, like vehicle interactions. They're pretty tough, like against like a dog or a coyote. They can tuck right into that shell. Um, and and they live a really long time. Does anybody know like the cool fact about turtles about how they don't age the way that mammals do? So the thing about turtles is they apparently cell division. We're going way back, junior high. Cell division, when your cells divide, you've got this structure on the end of your DNA called telomeres. And over time, your telomeres get shorter, and as your cells divide, they lose information. And so you get wrinkles, and I don't know, and you forget the names of the species in your slideshow, all that good stuff. Turtles, telomeres don't shorten when their cells divide. So it's physically impossible for them to die of old age. They die of lots of other things. Old age is not one of them. So I think they're great.
I
Worth
didn't know that
protecting.
was all turtles. I thought that was just a
Yeah.
tortoise thing that they could live very
No,
long.
that's turtles. That's all turtles. This one is another great semi-aquatic turtle. This one's called a spotted turtle. Whoever named the animals in our region, we could have had such cooler names. So, yeah, it's got spots on it. Okay. But yeah, spotted turtles you can often find in the spring hanging out in vernal pools. This one looks like it was in a dry vernal pool, hanging out on the bottom, looking for invertebrates. so I included this photo because you might be asking yourself, Kate, how do you have all these random photos of plants and animals? And the reality is, if you're out in the woods with me doing anything, literally anything, I will stop the activity for wildlife. A plane's going overhead, so I'm gonna mute myself real quick. Or I guess I'll just talk loud. But yeah, if you are like my friend Anna and I were riding mountain bikes, I was like, holy crap, look at that turtle. We need to stop. And this ended up being a really cool wildlife observation because I thought at first it was a box turtle. Like it looks kind of box turtle-ish. It's got a really high dome. Um, but I was like, it's kind of a cross between a box turtle and like a musk turtle because you can see like I got a good picture of the nostrils there. The nostrils are very like piggish, which is sort of indicative of a musk turtle. And this turtle, she can't get her whole body inside of the shell. So after we were done our ride, after we were done camping, I got back here and I looked it up in my field guide. And this is actually a Blanding's turtle. So Blanding's turtles are state endangered in the state that we were in. So I called the Division of Fish and Wildlife and I made my official report. And he's like, "Are you sure it was a Blanding's turtle?" And I was like, "Yeah, I'm sure." So yeah, I just thought like literally anything. Don't have to be on the clock. We stop for wildlife. And then I think this is my last photo. I wanted to share the last photo here is a happy little garter snake. I absolutely love snakes. They're very fast though, so they're hard to get photos of. Um, One of my favorite things in the spring is, walking in the woods before the leaves have come out and they're crunching under your feet and there's sunny patches and you very frequently will see garter snakes just sunning themselves either on a rock or just on a sunny patch of leaves. And I just think they're so cute. Who doesn't love a cute little garter snake? And with that, I want to thank you all. I want to thank Kaylee especially for indulging me in the what wildlife are on my camera roll presentation of the Blackstone River critters. I bet you all thought it was going to be 100% birds and literally no birds.
I am amazed there was not a single bird in there.
Birds are really hard to take photos of.
That was fantastic, Kate. Thank you so much. I'm sorry we had this small group for you on our
Oh,
like
you
off
recorded it.
week, but
And
I'm really glad
honestly,
it's recorded so
it's way
everyone can
better
check it
for us
out.
to like go on the bike path and be like,
Yeah.
what cool stuff's here? And I'll be like, look at this animal. It's so neat. Look at this plant. It's cool because. So, yeah, it's
If
just what
anyone's
we
been
do.
out with Kate, yeah, you can't go anywhere without her either telling you or I have to lean into it and be like, Kate, I know you know what this is. Please tell me.
I am holding myself back at all times. My mountain bike friends in particular are like roll their eyes so hard. I did get a life bird at in Putnam last weekend and I stopped the ride. Stopped it. Like you guys,
What was it?
it was a worm-eating warbler. Very rare.
Wow.
Any birders? It was very cool, I promise you.
Kate, you got a question in the chat earlier from David. He said, "Where do salamanders fit into the ecology of wet areas? Who preys on them?"
Oh, who preys on salamanders? Um, I've so people are like, Kate, how do you know all this stuff? And the answer is, yeah, you get your degree, you get a little baby stepping stone, but go out into the forest and pay attention, or out into the marsh and pay attention, or out on the coastline, or in your backyard, and just like, what are the animals doing? So I've noticed that barred owls will hang out at vernal pools when the adults are there. So I think barred owls will definitely eat a salamander. Um, what else might prey on salamanders? I get
Crows
the
usually.
feeling. Say it
Crows,
again. Crows
crows,
will? Yeah, that makes sense.
maybe. Yeah.
Crows, maybe.
I've
Yeah.
seen a garter snake eating a frog, so maybe
Yes.
Uh,
Yeah.
that.
I know that toads in particular, if you pick them up, they'll pee on you, and that's like a defense mechanism for like, ooh, gross, you peed on me. I don't want to eat you. And I think they also have some like irritating fluid or irritate. Like people always say, don't like the toad. Like I don't know that our toads in New England are as potent as other toads around the world. But yeah, I think there's some toxic, noxious sort of don't eat me stuff going on in the skin of a lot of our amphibians. But yeah, smaller stuff like frogs, like especially those little spring peepers, like when they're small, snakes love to eat them. Oh, in fact, I have a fun story from when I was an undergrad. Uh, Northern water snakes 100% eat adult spotted salamanders and adult wood frogs because one of the ways that we would survey the vernal pool was to just put a minnow trap half in and half out of the water. And the reason why you'd leave it half out is so that amphibians can spend a lot of time underwater, but they do need to breathe oxygen, so they need to like come up to the surface. And very regularly, a northern water snake would get in there and eat every single amphibian that was in the minnow trap, and then just be like so full and so bloated. And then when you open the minnow trap, they'd be so mad. So, large snakes will definitely eat amphibians as well.
Okay.
Any other questions? Oh, Heather says you've got the red F's in the headwaters. That's awesome. Can you tell me where?
I usually just see them, especially when they're in the orange, like
Mm-hmm.
juvenile. I think that's the juvenile stage, right? I see them
Yeah.
like when walking on the trails, like by the Holden Worcester line, like
Okay.
the Worcester Greater Land Trust and all that area over there.
Cool.
Yep.
Very cool. They're so
I love
pretty.
seeing
They're
the little
bright
one.
orange. The
Yeah.
photo I had from our region is kind of like muted, but like they're called red Fs. They should be called orange Fs. They're almost like
Yeah, they're super
fluorescent
bright.
orange. They're really
Yeah.
pretty.
Yeah, you're getting
Yeah.
some great kudos there. Sarah, were you going to jump in? Go ahead.
Oh, I was just going to give another shout out to those red Fs. I see them at Broad Meadowbrook every now and then, and it seems like there's days where like after a rain or something, you'll see like a bunch of them out. And
Awesome.
You've got a great audience here too of the right
Who
folks who
doesn't
care.
like crawly, slimy things? They're easy to photograph. And yeah, I would encourage anybody on a final note. So obviously leave your leaves and then when you're driving, pay attention, especially on rainy nights, and just put your flashers on and bring the animals across the road. It's all good. Maybe throw a vest on.
Leave one in your car at all times if you're like Kaylee. Well, thank you again so much. That was really entertaining and informative both. I feel like we need to set up our own like trivia night just with Kate running it for animal species. That was great. And some plants. I'd never seen the weird little one that closes around. Yeah. So I'll have to see that one day. So we're going to run through some of our organizational updates and things that we've heard from you, and then actually we're going to hand it over to Danica to talk about a funding opportunity for communities at the end of this as well. So we have two presenters today. I don't have any academic updates. I don't know if anyone else does. Okay. And any access updates? Okay. Thank you also to Kate for running a yoga class last week. But this week, that was Monday. It was a crazy week. That was such a fun event. We had actually a really great crew and everyone really enjoyed it. And I was amazed again that Kate did not tell us about the birds until the very end. And I had to ask her, I know you know what bird that is. And then she said, I was just hearing one bird and she said there were like six different ones. So yeah, it was a great time. And maybe that's something we need to continue exploring to do. Um, I don't have any Bikeway Greenway updates. I don't know if anyone else has anything they want to share other than we all need to get out on the bikeway.
I would love to share really quick just for
Yeah.
Bikeway Greenway, considering seems like a lot of people want to get out on the Bikeway Greenway. BHE is doing 7 rides between this upcoming Wednesday, mostly until the end of August, with one October ride. That's a fall foliage ride on the Snet. But all of those will be posted on our website. And I would love for all of you, especially those with goals to get on the Bikeway Greenway, to come on and join us on those.
I love it. My little mini goal this weekend is to get my bike serviced so that I can actually use it safely and to get a new helmet. So
There we
I am
go.
hoping to get out there. Thanks, Alyssa. And if you're
Yeah.
not on BHC's newsletter, they have a great newsletter with all those events.
There's an invasive species management plan that's being worked on for the upper part of the bikeway in Worcester. A guy named Joe Johnson is working on it. Peter, you may know him. I don't know if you're working with him or not. But he's working with I think DER to do this. It's a long-term management plan, and anybody that's biked up there knows that there's a lot of bittersweet and other sort of green varmints that are inhabiting the area.
Yeah,
Yeah,
Dave,
Kaylee's
that
working.
the BRWA is using some of their money that they got from a SEP. And so they hired Harvey to identify all the invasives. And then
Uh-huh.
we're going to be putting it out to a bid to manage the invasives. And that would be the notice of intent that we've got to file with the city of Worcester, because we'll be going after all the various. But yeah, there's some thick spots there.
Yeah, yeah. Okay. Okay.
Yeah, Kaylee's working on mapping that as well. Anything else on Bikeway? Okay. Fish Passage, we have a couple. One is thank you so much for it feels so long ago somehow, but last month's Fish Passage paddle and parade, we had a really great turnout and we had this amazing artwork from so many different groups. So thank you to everyone that helped run it and participate and create these wonderful works of art. This one in the top right is now on display at Save the Bay. Actually, even Ian O'Hara made that one. My sister helped with this board with the fourth annual fish parade on it. We had Worcester Tech students that made this really cool eel and this fish saying damn, which if you know Bruce, that was like his favorite thing because that's his favorite joke is that fish say damn. We had face painting and it was a really great time. I also wanted to let you know that this is pretty hot off the press from a meeting yesterday, that the current preferred alternative at Elizabeth Webbing Dam, which is the third dam upstream, is removal with a full channel Nature Lake Fishway. So I just want to say that this is a huge win because the Community Advisory Council really pushed DEM and TNC to consider this, and we were told no for literally years. And we pushed and we pushed and we said, this is really important. You have to consider it. Have you looked at it? Have you looked at it? And they said, we can't because of the covenant. We can't because of this. We can't because of that. And we said, Shh, prove it to us. And then when they looked into it, they were like, oh, actually, this is more plausible than we thought. And now it's the preferred alternative. So I'm so excited about this. Um, they haven't figured out all of the specifics yet. They're still doing some of the modeling to make sure that at all points the fish are able to pass and there aren't any like pinch points of really high flow or really low water supply. So we're working on that, and it will likely have like a series of like rock ramps or weirs to be able to keep the water level appropriate and the flow is appropriate so that they can get up over it. But with some modifications, sounds like we can do this, and that's really exciting, and it makes it much more fundable. We do know that we also have a congressional earmark that is moving forward that was approved, and I think it's in U.S. Fish and Wildlife's hands. Is that right, Kevin?
Yeah, it was supposed to go to NOAA, but in in the craziness of federal government, found its way to Fish and Wildlife.
Do you know how much that was for? Was that for the $2 million one?
Yep, it's $2 million, and they're saying that the full removal is probably closer to, I think they said 8 to 10.
Yep.
So still a lot of work out there, of course, but great.
That's a big chunk though. We don't have implementation funds for the lower two, so it's pretty exciting.
Mhm.
Um, As for
Just
the lower two, it's currently under permitting, if you haven't heard that. So it's actually in front of the CRMC in Rhode Island right now, and the hearing is on June 23rd in just a couple weeks to approve, hopefully, that permit to create a vertical slot fishway that would go around both Main Street and Slater. So we have really good progress moving forward on all three of the lowest dams. The fourth one is privately owned and a current hydro dam, so that's kind of on that private owner to provide fish passage at the point where fish are getting up to the third one. But this is the closest we've ever been on this project in the past 3 decades. So it's very exciting to have this moving forward.
it sounds like a big political push. How much would you, in one sentence or less, how much was the community involvement and engagement important in pushing this over the threshold, do you think?
I think it's critical for us to be able to show that there has been a lot of engagement and that people are aware and supportive of it. And I think the
Hmm.
Fish Passage parades were created for specifically that reason and have been really successful, especially with having, community, not only community members, but also, mayors and select board members come
Right,
and say,
right.
yes, I'm for this. This is important. It's a priority for our administration. So that's really
Hmm.
helpful when we put in our grant applications and things like
Yeah.
that.
Okay. Okay.
I
Yeah.
think that was
Thanks.
the turning point.
Yeah. Yeah. Great. Wonderful. Hmm.
Any other questions on Fish Passage? Okay. As a reminder, you can always check out our really exciting meetings. They are recorded. We have the notes online. It's all publicly accessible. You can go to our website, which is blackstonecollaborative.org/fishpassage, and find a link there and learn more. We don't always update the website necessarily with all of the small updates, but you can always get to the notes and see the smaller things there. For water quality, I'll hand it to Kaylee.
Sure. So there haven't been any CSO events in Worcester since our last meeting, which is great. And our CSO working group will plan to meet in August unless something comes up before then. And then we are still asking for folks who live in Worcester to sign on to our CSO educational postcard campaign. So if you're interested, feel free to reach out. I'm also working on getting an electronic version, so you don't have to like track me down and get the physical thing and sign it and have me keep it. So keep an eye out for that.
And Sarah, we'll bring you another stack of them to bring to leave at Broad Meadowbrook for folks who come in. It's on our list. Thanks. We have a few updates here for dam removal and restoration. So one is that I think we told you last time the collaborative on behalf of the dam owner Bill Giannopoulos received technical assistance from Mass Rivers Alliance to complete a feasibility study for removal of Linwood Pond Dam in Northbridge. So we had our preliminary first kickoff meeting with some of our partners just also this week. There's been a lot this week. That's a picture of a group of us there. So it included Mass Rivers, PAR Engineering Group, which is their engineering firm, and then some partners from the town of Northbridge, the Blackstone Heritage Corridor, the collaborative Save the Bay, and some others. So that was really successful. I think we had a great first conversation. We identified what some of the deliverables might be, what's really important to the community, and it seemed that we all really rallied around, all different parties really rallied around the opportunity to expand the recreational opportunities on the eastern side or river left of this area because there's currently the Mumford River Walk that the town completed just a couple years ago. And that's a region-wide project that lots of different communities are expanding their Mumford River Walk. So if the pond narrows down into a more channel, that gives us more room to have recreational opportunities, maybe new boardwalks, to be able to have those open spaces, but also connect the boardwalk directly into Linwood Mill and all of the resources and businesses that are there. So we're hoping that that is a piece of this and a good next step as part of that deliverable. Also, we're really excited. This is also hot off the press this week that our sediment testing, we have finally selected a consultant. So, thanks to everybody that participated in that process. So, we're going to be hiring EA Engineering, which is a new consultant for us to train our collaborative staff and a couple of other key partner organizations to take sediment samples. And so by the end of this, we're going to start it immediately. We'll get our QAP going, and then as soon as the QAP is wrapped up, then we can schedule our field work. We're hoping that that can be this fall, assuming that the QAP doesn't take too long to get approved. It's possible that we lose out on our appropriate weather at the end of this year and we have to wait until the spring, but we're hoping that we can get some done in the fall. So we'll be looking at 20 different points along the main stem, so 10 different kind of locations, and then upstream and downstream of each of those locations. So we have a lab as well that we'll be working with, and we're trying to fit as many samples as we can into our budget. And at the end, we will have our own, hopefully, internal capacity to be able to take sediment samples. And so when people ask for help in saying, okay, I'm interested in potentially looking at this dam, but I'm really worried about the sediment, we'll be able to just get a few $1,000s to be able to process the samples, and then it'll be free for our staff to be able to take those samples and transport them over and get like a snapshot image of how much are we worried about sediment in this area. The training will also have some information about looking at quantity. It won't quantify how much sediment is behind each of these dams, but it'll start giving us a sense of what to look for and how we would be doing that. So we're very excited about that, and there'll be more to come. We also went out with the DER Priority Projects team back in May, and we really appreciate their help. We took them to, I don't remember, maybe 7 different dams, and we got to just walk out and ask them a bunch of questions. What are we looking for here? Why would you do it this way versus that way? And it was so helpful to just be able to pick their brain and also hear from different people who are all within the same division of, what differences of opinion or ideas are on potential pathways forward on each of these dams and which ones might be best for removal. So that was really, really helpful to get different considerations for each of the dams. And now we've got a lot kind of bubbling in the brain and thinking about next steps. So all of this work will help inform our Kitticut Restored project and thinking about priority projects as well. So DER has a priority project application, which hasn't been open in 5 years, but they do anticipate it to be open this fall. So we're keeping our eye on that and thinking about which projects might be appropriate to pursue. So that process means if we were to get a project selected under DER priority projects, we would get technical assistance for a long time to be able to see that project through. It's not necessarily funding, but we would have kind of DER in our back pocket to help us through this process. Danica.
Thanks. I just have a quick question on the site visits. Did you just ask DER to come out and visit the dams with you? Like, is that something that communities can ask them to do and they will do on demand?
That's a great question. So because the priority projects have been open for 5 years and now they're just sort of wrapping up, they haven't opened the new one yet. So there's this kind of gap right now where most of their projects are done and they don't have a lot that they're working on. And so they really kindly actually reached out to us and said, I have a little bit more time than I usually do. What could you use help on? And we said, oh my gosh, everything. And so we had a few meetings to kind of prep and think about what's the best way forward. And then we did this site visit with them, looking at several dams to just kind of get their feedback and thinking about what would be appropriate for that priority project specific application. I think now is the time if a community was interested in potentially applying for priority projects and specifically to reach out to DER and ask for that kind of conversation. Because once the RFP opens, they have the cone of silence and they can't talk about it at all. And they anticipate it, I think, like late summer, maybe early fall. I'm not sure on the timing. But it's not something that they would typically do. We just got really lucky on timing. Thank you also to David for organizing this. We had a great event last night kicking off the Homebrew Dam removal, and that dam is coming out early July. The timeline's gotten moved up a bit because we're pretty dry right now, so very exciting. It'll be about a 6-week process, but the dam removal itself will come out very fast. It's not, you can see on the right, uh, they were um, David was talking about how this was really called Homebrew. He got to help come up with the title of it because it was an unknown dam. It wasn't even on a state registration or anything. And it was really built with whatever materials they had. So they have, wood and brick and concrete and some water pipes they had because it's behind the water division. And it was a homemade dam that was, we believe, created as a fishing pond. So it doesn't really have any real purpose and it serves, it's in poor condition. It's not maintained. It's owned by the town and there's an opportunity to remove it because if it were to fail, it could inundate and contaminate the public well supply that's immediately adjacent. So it's a great project, and it is our first municipally led project. That's a dam removal in the Blackstone watershed. The only other ones are the Sutton Merrill Ponds ones, which were top down, where the state came in and said, "This is our land, this is our dam, and this is what we're going to do." So this is pretty exciting that the town is leading the charge, and big, big, big kudos to David for being the absolute local champion on this one.
Well, thank you, Stephanie, for your presentation. And Heather presented a great thing about community participation. She's recruiting citizen scientists to do before and after water quality monitoring, macroinvertebrate sort of surveillance. And we're also recruiting some people to do some upstream planting in the early fall. So a lot of community involvement, and I appreciate my partners so much, Heather and Stephanie and Peter, for showing up, and it was great. It's wonderful. So thank
And
you
if
all.
you Yeah, thank you, David. And Heather's running a citizen science program, like David mentioned. It's actually next Thursday at
Right.
6 p.m. It's at Homebrew Dam. So if you want to learn how to sample for macroinvertebrates, this is the sort of before testing of while the dam is still there. And then next year they'll come back and they'll do additional testing and see how those macroinvertebrate communities have changed. And if they're more diverse, which we anticipate, that's kind of indicative of a healthier, more clean water. So pretty excited about that. And if you want to learn more, you can contact Heather. For grants, quick, you've heard this before. We're still waiting on a couple of grants applications to hear back from. So we helped several communities with Eco One Stop, MVP and culvert replacement, and also the DER partnership program. I think everything's kind of waiting until the state budget is completed. So hopefully that is soon. And then there's just a couple things before I hand it over to Danica. One is the Blackstone Valley Paddling Club. If you are interested in checking out the watershed, but the main stem of the Blackstone is a little sketchy for you, here are some opportunities to get out on the river in different locations. There's a ton of them here. We'll share this, it's in our notes, but lots of opportunities in both states. And then also, Kaylee, do you want to talk about this?
Sure. So, we've been doing a lot of culvert work with Grafton. They've been an awesome partner. We surveyed all of the culverts in Grafton and in Upton last year, and from that we had a list of priorities for replacement. And this one scored pretty high. It's on Westboro Road. Um, and we applied to the MassDOT Community Culvert Grant Program, which I believe is a new program. And rather than having like an actual grant where there's an exchange of funds, it's more so technical assistance. So they hire a firm for you on your behalf and kind of do the first stages. So yeah, Grafton was awarded and we're really excited about it. And I thought this was a really great program too. Like the application was simple. So I would encourage others to apply for it. I think there's going to be another round in the fall as well.
Thanks, Kaylee. And thanks for writing the application to make it happen. And with that, I will hand it over to Danica to talk about the SNAP Network's Community Technical Assistance Program, Community Assistance Program, or CAP solicitation that's currently open.
Great, thank you so much. Do I have a few minutes to share some slides?
Yeah, go for it.
Okay.
If folks have other updates, if you have to run, feel free to put them in the chat. But Danica, I think you're good.
Okay, can you guys see my slides?
Yes.
So I'm going to be brief. I'm going to give like an abbreviated version of this presentation. So sorry if I'm jumping around a little quickly. But so the SNEP network, in case you're not aware, It stands for Southeast New England Program. We are a program of EPA. It's actually administered through the New England Environmental Finance Center, which is based out of Maine. But they are just kind of like the facilitator and the organizer of the network. The network operates within the SNP region. So this is a map of the EPA's geographic SNP area. We're a network of experts and practitioners who are working on watershed health, climate resilience, stormwater management, water quality protection, ecological restoration projects, who are groups that are working on the region, and we provide free technical assistance to communities throughout the region. And we do that through a few different avenues: direct community support, like direct one-on-one assistance to try to meet communities where they're at. But one of the benefits of being a regional network of practitioners is that we do a lot of coordination and working with communities all across the region. We can kind of see what the common challenges and needs are. And so we try to use that to put together standardized trainings, tools, resources that can kind of be amplified and shared across the region and foster more regional collaboration and coordination across the region. So we have, just going to kind of breeze through these, but we have tools and resources available on our website across a lot of different topics. We also do trainings on different topics, and then the direct technical assistance. So what I really want to share today is our direct technical assistance program. And so every year we have a competitive application round where we accept projects for technical assistance. And so it's a little different from a conventional grant program. We don't offer funding for projects, but what we do offer is time from within our network of providers. So communities submit project ideas for us, let us know what you're working on, what you could use support on to try to advance and implement your projects. And we will connect you with one of the providers in our network to assist you in whatever assistance it is that you need with that project. So we can give you time, the time of those more or less experts, technical experts who can help you with advancing projects. So the applications are open now. When I'm done, I'll drop the link to it in the chat. We're accepting applications through July 15th. Projects should support stormwater and watershed management, innovative funding or financing, ecological restoration, or climate resilience. And we try to prioritize building local capacity and leadership. So wherever we can train or improve your local capacity so that you can do more of this work on your own. We also value partnerships and peer-to-peer learning. Wherever we try to kind of fit in to leverage other types of funding. So we try to focus on gaps where there's not a funding source to do what it is you're trying to do. So we can kind of bridge those gaps in funding and capacity. And we always want to try to work with new communities. So a little more details on the types of assistance. I mentioned we have both the direct one-on-one assistance, and we also have like trainings, group trainings. So for the one-on-one technical assistance, we could help you with just kind of identifying, prioritizing, planning projects. So we can help you identify projects, again, that are going to help promote water quality, ecological restoration, better stormwater management practices. We can help you with identifying projects, prioritizing projects, and just planning and scoping for grant applications or trying to figure out where to go next. We also help with identifying funding and financing strategies for projects and programs. We've done several bylaw or ordinance reviews and helping you with updating those types of regulatory updates. And we can also assist with stakeholder engagement. And then alongside those kind of one-on-one meet you where you're at types of projects, we also offer group training cohorts wherever we see like shared issues that communities are trying to address so that we can reach more communities. If we see multiple communities are kind of facing the same thing, we might bring you together in like a group cohort learning kind of situation where we will provide like kind of an in-depth training, maybe over a series of virtual sessions paired with some in-person visits. And we've done that with, we have a stormwater planning series that's really successful. We've done for 5 years now. where communities identify a site where they are having stormwater challenges, and we'll go out to the site with them and help them develop and design a conceptual design for how to address stormwater on the site. We also have done it for climate resilience project planning, and we've done it with the Blackstone Watershed Collaborative. They've done culvert assessment trainings for our communities. So those are some examples of the trainings. A few key details. To be eligible, you must be a municipality, a tribe, or a nonprofit organization that is located within the SNP region. If your community is partially within the region, you can still apply as long as your project is located within the SNP region. Anyone can apply on behalf of a community, any of those eligible entities, but you must have like whoever is the responsible authority for implementing a project, they must be involved in your project. So they don't have to be the applicant, but they have to at least be a project partner with you. And like I said, this is not a grant, it's technical assistance. The only thing we require of the applicants is that you commit your time and your staff or organization leadership to working with us on the decision making and committing to implementing whatever the project we work on together. Excuse me, sorry. The application process, it's a really simple Word document that you can download online. It's 5 questions, just asking what's the problem you're trying to solve, how is it going to help you improve local capacity, and a few other questions. And then when we select projects, again, we match you with either a training cohort, or either way, whether you're doing one-on-one assistance or on a training cohort, we will match you with one of our partners who will kind of be the manager of the project and provide that direct assistance. Then we'll work with you to develop a scope of work, a schedule, and a memorandum of MOA, not understanding. Agreement, thank you. I totally blanked on that. Memorandum of agreement for the services. And then the projects usually take place over the course of a year. Could be longer, could be shorter, depending on what's needed. And then up at the end of the project, which is a really neat part of the network and the program. So at the end of the project, we will recommend next steps for you on how you can advance your project, but we'll also remain available. So like even once a project ends, we still remain available to assist you with whatever those next steps are, whether it's seeking funding for next steps. We're still around, happy to support. So again, the solicitation is out now. We did have an informational session yesterday. The recording of that will be up on our website if it's not already. The application deadline is July 15th. We have office hours. I think actually that's on the next slide, so there will be a slide. I'll share the link in the chat too, but you can sign up for 30-minute consultations with me to discuss project ideas. So even though the solicitation is open, we're still happy to chat with you and assist with like the application process. So if you're interested in seeing, is this a fit for me? Like you want to discuss ideas and figure out like what would be a good project to submit, feel free to reach out. Happy to meet with you. Applications due July 15th. We'll notify communities in September, and projects typically begin in October. And yeah, so for next steps, we have, like I said, we had an informational session. We're going to compile questions and post like a Q&A document on our website. And here's just a few contacts. I'll put my contact information in the chat, and the QR code on the screen too, if you want to scan that too, will bring you to the page about the solicitation and all of these links. And that is it. I'll put my contact info in the chat now, but happy to answer any questions if anyone has any questions.
Yeah, I have one. Does your technical assistance include legal work at all? I know there's Stephanie and I were talking with some local people about another dam project with very slippery and nuanced legal issues in terms of dam ownership. And I think that's a common problem in terms of, restoration projects, dam removals, and all of that. I just wondered if have you ever done a consultative group to address that issue or not?
Yeah, unfortunately, we don't have any legal experts within
Okay.
our partners, as far as I
Yeah.
know. So
Okay.
I
Okay.
don't think we could provide legal advice, but I think we
No, no, no.
could provide
Yeah.
like help with maybe some of the desktop research and
Okay.
strategizing, but just not legal.
Okay. Yeah,
Yeah.
no, not legal advice, but yeah, just a community of people who dealt with these who might have some experience might be helpful. That's all. Okay.
David, if
Mhm.
you were to apply for that, I would be your contact. So
Okay. Okay.
it would basically be paying for our time to help with facilitation. I think there's only a
Gotcha.
limited amount that I can probably help with on that one. I think there's definitely some
Yeah.
legal questions, but we're
Okay.
happy to do what we were talking about yesterday of connecting you with Office
Great.
of Dam Safety and thinking about setting up an LLC and what are the options and
Okay.
kind of giving you
Yeah.
the framework and how to. And we also
Okay.
were thinking about doing something really similar with another dam in Grafton. So maybe there's an opportunity to kind of package those together with
Yeah.
those communities.
Okay.
But we can talk offline too.
Okay. Okay. Great. Thanks.
Yeah, yeah. Maybe
Yeah,
we can
Danica, this is, oh, go ahead.
I was gonna say take her consultation hours.
Thanks,
Hmm.
Kaylee.
Right.
Oh no, sorry, that was Stephanie. You put the link in the chat.
Go
Um,
ahead,
Danica,
Kate.
this is super timely because I
mhm.
was talking with a colleague yesterday about strategies on how to get communities. When you look at the map, not a lot of Blackstone communities have applied for the SNAP network community assistance program.
Hmm.
And your presentation cleared up for me. I was sort of assuming it was another round of this stormwater planning, but it sounds like this is planning for a really wide range of watershed projects, right?
Yeah.
And then do you have any suggestions on, how to approach towns? Because I definitely, send an email to folks where I've got contacts. And but oftentimes, we talk about capacity and conservation agents or town managers like don't even have time to answer an email, especially if they don't really understand what the SNAP network is. So, do you
Mhm.
have any suggestions for us who might be reaching out to our contacts in the watershed? Um, or strategy. I'm looking at Steph, like, are there municipalities you're reaching out to? Like, can we help with that? Like, what's the message to make it a little less overwhelming for them?
Yeah,
Always
that's a
offer
great
to help
point.
with the application too.
Yeah, so we rely a lot on our partners and like the partners who are in the network who are going to be providing the assistance. They're the ones who are on the ground working with communities. So we rely on them a lot to work with their communities to kind of like they know what work needs to be done more or less. Like they have a good sense. So they oftentimes they'll go to the community and say, hey, we should do this. Can we help you write an application? And like, yeah, that's often the biggest thing, the capacity challenge to write the application, figure out what to submit. So doing that, just going like, hey, you need to do this project. This could help you do it. Can I help you write your application? And so that is why also we try to make the application really simple. Like it's only 5 questions, like a paragraph each. So it is very simple. Um, and we also have on the website, like we have like an info sheet if that's helpful, like just kind of like a one page, what is this program that you can share. But yeah, feel free to send people to me and I can
Okay,
help them with kind of picking a project and putting together an application too. So
thanks.
And we are reaching out to some folks. We've already had some conversations. Like Danica said, just thinking about what projects we've heard of that might fit. CAP is particularly interesting because the stormwater planning series requires a serious time commitment from a community over a 6 month long process.
Mhm.
CAP is, I need something done and I don't have time to do it. Can you help us do it? And so it might be on the ground. It might be hire Kate and do a wetland delineation and then figure out next steps. It might be just outlining permitting. It might be this facilitation of let's figure out what's going on this project. It could be basically anything. Kaylee's also reached out to some communities and is thinking about all of these different culvert opportunities. And one thing about the SNEP network is that they really like to continue a project. So a lot of times, like you hit a grant and you're kind of one and done. SNEP network is not like that. They like to help you again and again and again, keep moving forward in that process. And I think that's a real selling point for communities because they have a sort of automatic next step sort of built into it. And I think it helps you see the path forward. It also can really help with other grants. So if we're just doing this kind of facilitation or early stage planning, but they know they need to plan for an engineering grant or permitting or implementation or whatever, saying that the SNEP network already gave us this technical assistance and it's very like it sounds very fancy and formal. It's like this organization, an EPA-backed group, has believed in us and helped start this. You're much more likely to leverage that into another application as well. Kaylee, did you want to mention anything either from?
Not really. I think that's a great summary. Yeah, I've been working on the culvert side of things for this, which was the training that we did in West Warwick in April. But we've kind of expanded it to not just offer a culvert training, which again is like kind of a time commitment. It's 4 days in the field with me. So we've come up with some other options that are a little bit less time intensive, but hopefully help communities to, make steps in the right direction and get some assessments done for key culverts that they really do want to replace and apply for funding for replacement.
Any other questions that folks have?
Could this be used for watershed-based plans too, or yeah, okay.
We are working with a community in Massachusetts on a watershed-based plan. It it would likely have to be broken out over a couple of years just because it is kind of that like that's a large undertaking and like capacity is often a limitation like because we're funding our partner's time and so like it might be that it would have to be broken out into phases but it is something that we could assist with likely.
Okay.
And we're not the only ones. Like we're the Blackstone kind of specific group, but there are a lot of other groups that have more really specific stormwater expertise or, Kate's on it. We often throw her into something that needs a delineation, for instance. So you can get some technical stuff. We're not very technical.
Yeah, I was approached by, I think it was in Upton. I'll have to look back through my notes, but they were really interested in around a lake where they have a lot of beach closures, looking at, stuff specifically on that sub watershed. So it was just popped into my head, but I can talk to you more about that.
We also have like what we call a consultant pool. Like we have pre-approved consultants and funding to hire them. We don't like to broadly advertise it because the funds for consultants are very limited. So it's only like to kind of like match projects and like fit in with like high priority projects. So I would not apply specifically looking for consultant funds, but like for like a watershed based plan like that, that might be something where we would have one of our partners kind of managing the project, but then maybe bring in like a consultant for some of the more technical stuff. We do that sometimes. But a lot of it's hard to say like, yes, for sure we will or won't do that because it's very based on like what partner is working in your region and like what their capacity is. So that's why I also like happy to talk one-on-one about specific projects too to get into some more of those nuances.
But it is open to nonprofits as well, which is really great. So if there's a specific project that a nonprofit wants to advance sort of on behalf of the community or in a, multi-community area, those can be great projects too. Well, thank you so much, Danica,
Thank you
for
for your time.
coming
Appreciate
and
it.
presenting. Again, I'm sorry it's a small group. I forgot that we transitioned our meeting date so that we didn't overlap with Juneteenth, but we had a good group here. So you guys are the committed ones. Um, Anyone else want to share any other updates or questions or anything before we break? Judy, go for it.
Yeah, it's interesting that we just had that question about watershed-based plans. I just wanted to update everyone on the upcoming 319 and 604B RFP releases. We're still targeting late July, early August for the release of both RFPs. We'll be releasing 604B first, and then we'll be releasing 319 probably about 2 weeks later. And just to refresh your memories, 604B is our water quality management planning grant. So that's any activity that's associated with watershed assessment, water quality assessment, planning activities, things like that. And that includes the development of watershed-based plans. We have a little extra funding in 604B this year. We have some IIJA money left that we haven't spent that we've wrapped into this grant round. So we'll have I think about $1.8 million for 604B, which is about 3 times what we normally have. So if you want to do your watershed planning, that is a priority for this grant round. And think about contacting Megan Selby, who's our 604B coordinator, to talk about your project, and she'll kind of help you think it through and how you might prepare a good proposal. 319 is the implementation grant, and typically you do your planning first through 604B and then apply for 319 funding in a kind of a later phase, if you will. And there was one other, oh yeah, the last thing was that we will be holding a pre-RFP informational session to talk to folks about, or not to talk to folks, but to introduce folks to the 2 grants and what our priorities will be for this year. And we're targeting, we don't have a firm date yet, but we're targeting sort of the beginning of July. We're thinking maybe around July 8th. I think that's like the middle of the first full week of July. So just kind of keep those target dates in mind. And once we get through our internal review process, we'll finalize the dates and get all the information officially out there.
Great. Thank you so much, Judy.
Of course.
And for folks in Rhode Island, we heard something similar that they will be opening the 319 implementation grant pretty soon, I think at the end of June or early July also. Anything else that folks want to share?
I would like to just share with the BRWA we just finished our education program, our in-classroom education program, and we were able to do programs in Uxbridge thanks to the MVP that David had gotten, and then in Worcester as well. And we're working with the city of Worcester because they're developing their own education program too. So there's lots of schools there that need and we've been working with the DPW in Worcester to show the kids. They come at the end of the program. Well, one of the engineers comes and presents with us, which is awesome, and then he opens a catch basin and they clean out a catch basin for the kids to see, which is really cool. So we just finished all that up, and then with my BRC hat on, we're still doing our water quality monitoring. And our next sampling is this Saturday. And that's going really well. And we were chosen for the Narragansett Bay Estuary program for their education outreach program. We did end up getting that grant so we can keep our education program going to other schools in the watershed. So, and in Rhode Island and Massachusetts, like that's both. So
That's awesome. Thanks, Heather. Congrats on
yeah.
that. Mark.
Hey everybody, just real quick, 2 updates. This might have been better served the first update during the bikeway update, but there has been progress if you're familiar with where the Kelly House is in Lincoln, Rhode Island. Along the bikeway, they've begun DEM, in Rhode Island has begun work on the Chafee Memorial installation. Which was part of the legislation of the park that a John Chafee Memorial would be placed somewhere within the park boundaries. So that work is now underway. So if you're on the bike path in the Ashton area, there is not totally not to the point where it interrupts the bike path, but there is work happening there. So just be aware of that. And that is what's happening there. And then the second update is we are lucky enough again this year that we have a Fish and Feathers intern again. And that's an internship held in partnership with Environment for the Americas. Althea has been awesome. Already done quite a few fishing programs and birding programs, but Althea is around. Hopefully, she'll be able to get on the call next month to introduce herself to all of you. But she is out and about in the valley doing stuff today. But she is on the team now too, so as well. So exciting news in that category.
Thanks, Mark. That's great. We actually just got an email about our next month's site visit that we were talking about. So we would still love to get on the bikeway at some point, but we're really hoping to explore this potential parcel in that's sort of at the intersection of Lincoln, Cumberland, and Central Falls. So if you're down in Rhode Island or you want to meet us down in Rhode Island, we're going to have a walk through this really lovely area on the western side of Lonsdale Marsh. So Lonsdale Marsh is where the fish are coming up to migrate, hopefully. That's their spawning grounds. And there's a really great potential of conservation of and public recreation in this spot. So the town just agreed that we can they'll open the gate for us so that we can get in there and check it out. So it'll be a fun walk. We'll share more information in an email too. Anything else that folks want to share? I feel like we haven't gone overtime in so long. Normally we wrap up early, so lots to talk about. Okay, well, thank you so much for joining us in June. I hope you all get outside and do the fun things that you want to do, whether it's sitting under a tree or biking or going to the beach or surfing, all these different things. We're lucky to live somewhere where we have all those options. So happy June. See you in July in person. Bye, guys.
Bye.